On the evolutionary scale, it is somewhere between the fishes and the reptiles, plodding upstream as though continuing a slow march through the ages that has taken several 100 million years. This is the largest amphibian on Earth. The giant Japanese salamander, almost 1.5 meters long. Some reach a weight of 20 kilograms. Rising over 1,000 meters above sea level, these are the Shigoku Mountains. In wild mountain streams that tumble down through the valleys, the giant salamanders spend their lives. Their range is limited to just 3 areas of Japan, where conditions are right for survival. Evolution has given them camouflage. At first glance, you might think the salamander is just another rock, until that rock begins to move up into the currents. This salamander is following an ancient instinct, climbing to the upper reaches of the stream. Like a salmon returning to the spawning grounds, it will fight through the currents for several weeks in search of the place to lay its own eggs. With a body shaped to reduce water resistance when it lowers its head, the giant salamander climbs slowly past all obstacles. This is a primitive animal, sticking to a basic body design and lifestyle that has not changed very much in the last 100 million years. Each short front leg has 4 fingers that help the salamander to get a grip on the rocks. The back feet have 5 fingers, which may once have been webbed. The eye is tiny, just 3 millimeters wide. Giant salamanders have functioning lungs and will take quick breaths by sticking the head briefly above water. Most impressive, perhaps, are the skull and teeth, a powerful jaw, and an unusual double row of teeth, about 400 teeth in neat rows, tilted inwards, so that prey, once bitten, cannot escape. These teeth can also inflict serious injury on humans. And that is the sound of an angry giant salamander. Anger, or aggression, also produces a white substance on its back, which carries a warning scent, similar to the scent of an ash tree. Thus, the name for this salamander is ash fish. The fossil record shows that the giant salamander today looks almost exactly like its ancestors, except that they were 3 or 4 meters long and were terrifying creatures that dominated the land for 100 million years. Giant salamanders are largely nocturnal animals, becoming very active after sundown. Caught in the beam of a powerful light, this salamander is being followed by an underwater camera as it sets out in search of food. They live mainly on swamp crabs and fish, depending on their own rock-like camouflage for concealment. This crab, for example, has spotted some cover under a nearby boulder and heads for what appears to be safety. This apparently ponderous and primitive amphibian is not something that crabs and fish want to meet on a dark night. And now the salamander is dealing with a momentary case of severe indigestion. Fish that were swallowed whole are quite understandably trying to escape from deep within its stomach. Giant amphibians have all but disappeared from the rest of the Earth. The only two related species are found in an isolated part of China and in the United States, where they are smaller and known as hellbenders. Once they were found in Europe, but repeated glaciation may have wiped them out. In this small corner of the Orient, there was no glaciation, but they still face serious problems. Here, a giant salamander stubbornly defends some man-made territory, a special concrete cave built for its use by the concerned residents of a small Japanese town. Stream erosion control projects have turned natural banks into cement walls, and salamanders have been losing the shelters they need for spawning. It's an old problem for wildlife, the loss of habitat because of man's activities. The tenant of this cave is not about to give up without a fight. In spite of its status as a special national monument, the constant fortification of riverbanks continues to give it serious problems. Meanwhile, back among the mountains, the long journey to more traditional spawning grounds must continue. The water is growing colder here, and there will be fewer predators for the larvae when they hatch. Now it is August. For some, the long journey is over, and a sheltered place for spawning has been selected. Although it is the female that lays the eggs, the male cleans and prepares the nest, and will stay with them once they are laid. Surrounded by 400 or 500 eggs, he defends against fish and crabs and other creatures that might be a threat. The eggs are about the size of large grapes and joined together like a string of pearls by a gelatinous substance that prevents them from breaking apart. Some have 2 yolks, containing all the genetic information needed to create 2 giant salamanders from 1 egg. He will guard them faithfully for 6 or 7 weeks. While only the most foolish predator would tackle such a powerful defense, few of the larvae that hatch from these eggs will survive. This is a perfectly normal strategy. Lay hundreds of eggs, and 1 or 2 may make it. From time to time, he must go in search of food. The faithful defender is once again the night hunter. large, powerful eel approaches from downstream. Lowering its head to simulate a rock, the giant salamander waits and measures the distance. Caught in those curved teeth and held by muscles that clamp the salamander's jaw shut, the eel has no chance. Because the eel is so large, the salamander will store it temporarily within its mouth, and then swallow it, bit by bit. October. The world above the stream is changing. A month and a half has passed since the salamanders arrived to lay their eggs. Beneath the surface, the giant salamander's vigil continues. But now there is life stirring within each egg. As they move, it is believed they produce enzymes that slowly melt through the outer wall of the eggs. The quick movements produce vibrations that stimulate other larvae to begin the effort to break out. Gentle movements by their guardian stirs the eggs and keeps oxygen flowing among them. Once it is hatched, each larva draws nourishment from the yellow sac on its stomach for about 50 days, until it is large enough to catch its own food. Like the larvae of other amphibians, they are equipped with feathery external gills, which they will lose during metamorphosis to the adult stage. For most, the odds are against survival. It is believed that only 1 in 10,000 will live to make the long trek back up this river to spawn as an adult. The arrival of winter brings harsh conditions to the rivers that flow down from the mountains. In places, the water may freeze to the bed of the stream, and the temperature of the water everywhere is 0 Celsius. Even at these extremes, the giant salamander remains active. As an amphibian with a soft skin that needs moisture, it must live close to water. It could have moved downriver to more moderate conditions and has the ability to live on land, but it prefers to stay here. Perhaps this toughness has been the clue to its survival. All it asks for is a clean, cold mountain stream with a good food supply and a secure place to spawn. But it remains an endangered species, distinguished from other salamanders by its extraordinary size and weight. Any primitive animal that somehow evolves unchanged for millions of years and stubbornly clings to its way of life should be treasured and respected and allowed to live undisturbed within its chosen ecological niche. The Japanese giant salamander gives us a glimpse of an age of reptiles and amphibians. It is part of the history of this earth and has earned the right to survive for another 100 million years.